This is a compilation of all the videos that I've made on the 7 types of directed writing, namely letter writing, article writing, interview writing, newspaper report, journal writing, speech writing, and formal report. This is for paper 1 of the 0500 IGCSE paper. If you're interested in paper 2, there are only 3 types of directed writing in paper 2. I call it the evaluation question because you are required to evaluate in that question. So if you're interested in paper 2, please look for this video over here. I will put the link up here for you. Coming back to this one, because there are 7 types of directed writing in this video, it is quite a long video. You can watch it while you are exercising, when you're having a meal, when you are waiting. You can take screenshots if you cannot sit down and take notes. I hope you find it useful. Please enjoy. Today we will be writing an informal letter. The process is the same as all the other types of directed writing, whether it is article, journal, interview, report, newspaper report, or speech. If you don't know the difference between formal or informal, please click on the link above for the video that will explain to you the difference. Welcome to English Step by Step. I am Miss V, and we will be doing the October-November 2020 paper 1-3. Like I said, the steps are all the same. Step 1 is to read the blurb of the text. I have highlighted the blurb for you. The title is An Incredible Journey, and the blurb says, in 1935, 2 men, Max, who is the narrator, and Helmer, tried to find a land route from India to China. Here, Max describes part of their journey from the Judean desert in the Middle East and across the river Jordan. That's all we need for now, so we know it is a long trip. Next, we will read the question and underline the keywords. So here we are. If you remember, the text was written from Max's point of view. Max was the narrator. Now you have to write this letter from Helmer's point of view. So notice that in question 3, there's always a change in point of view. If you haven't checked out my other videos on the other types of directed writing, make sure that you do so. Straight after the evening that you and Max pitched camp, you write a letter to your mother. So in your letter, you should comment on. So notice that I've used 3 colors again, the same thing I've done in the other videos. And that's because in the text, I will also highlight the relevant parts in the same colors. So the first part involves the most enjoyable parts of your journey and why they were enjoyable. So remember that you are Helmuth. Second part, the challenges you and Max faced and how you overcame these challenges. And the third part, the problems you foresee for the rest of the trip and how you might have been better prepared for them. Now, when you read the text, you might notice that these parts are in the text, but these parts may not be. So you may have to use this as development. If you don't know what development means, again, please watch my other videos. Again, these are all the same as in the other videos. I just want to highlight this, which is that you should write 350 or maybe even a little bit more if you want to include enough points. We're going to find 5 points for each section because the content marks, it's 15. Step 3 is to read the text and underline 4 to 5 points for each section. We're going to aim for 5, but if you can't find 5, then you can stop at 4. So here I've color-coded the points. So for the first part, what you enjoyed the most, it's the peculiar feeling to know that all the water in the oceans of the world was towering above you like mountains, and seeing the Dead Sea, being able to float on it, seeing the birds, and also camping. The next part is about the challenges. So the road was stony and steep. The weather was hot. The car was giving problems. And also there was too much baggage, car problems, and road condition again. And we were starting to get depressed. Now, the third part is about the problems that you foresee. That is about the future, but you may want to use modal verbs like may or might or will. I'm going to predict that the car might give problems, that we might not be able to complete the distance. We might get into fights, Max and Helmut, and the baggage might cause problems. So we may have to downsize. And also the camera might start giving problems. Now the next step is to fill in the three tables like what I've done before. So this is the first table, which is the first bullet point, enjoyable parts of the journey and why. Now for the points, I've got enjoyable parts of the journey. And for development, I have here why they were enjoyable. So this is from the text, and these are the exact details from the text. Now I've got these three columns because if you look at the mark scheme, you will notice that the examiner also requires details and development. So the first enjoyable part is once in a lifetime experience being below sea level. I think this should be hyphenated. In the text, it says peculiar feeling. And development, why they were enjoyable. It was surreal. I still cannot imagine it. Next point, seeing the famous Dead Sea for the first time. This is from the text. I've read so much about it, so I was very curious. Floating on the water. This is in the text. And Max looks so funny. Sight of beautiful stalks shining like snow. So majestic. Camping out in the open, that's also enjoyable. Gentle breezes, that's in the text. A relief after a long day of driving. That's why it was enjoyable. The next table is about the challenges we faced and how we overcame them. So make sure you have the right point of view and the right pronouns. So the first challenge was that the road was rough, stony and steep. Remember we highlighted this. So we had to slow down. That's how we overcame the problem. The weather was very uncomfortable. Sun blazed, avoided the hottest times of the day. The car struggled, radiator boiled, stopped and cooled it down with water. We had too many things. Packed lovingly by his mother, threw away some non-essentials. We got overwhelmed by the distance. This word is in the text. Talked about something else, told jokes. This is the third bullet point, problems I foresee and how I might have been better prepared. So the problems I foresee are car problems, engine labored, so should have bought a better car. Having to get rid of some baggage, have to downsize. Remember we highlighted this. Should have been more selective when packing. That's how I might have been better prepared. Might not make it all the way. 23,000 kilometers more to go. Shouldn't have been so ambitious. Fighting, that's in the text, should have divided the driving more equally to ease exhaustion. Camera not good enough. That's in the text, so should have brought my own instead of relying on Max's camera. Now we're going to write the letter.
Dear Mom, I'm having the time of my life, but I miss you dreadfully. I know you want to know all about my journey, so here it goes. The trip has been amazing so far. You will not believe that we were driving below sea level. Can you imagine the feeling of being able to be under the sea, but you're on the road? Bizarre. When we finally arrived at the Dead Sea, I was stumped for a minute. I'd only read about it, and now I finally saw it. Max jumped into the water immediately, and it was so funny watching him flailing around like an animated cork. That night we saw your favorite birds, storks. They were so incredibly bright and majestic. Then we slept in the open at a campsite. With the wind on our skin, it was such a relief after a long drive. Mum, I'm so sorry, but we had to discard some of the items you packed for me. because the car springs were groaning from the weight. The car really worried us because the radiator heated up, and we had to stop every few hours to cool it down with water. The weather didn't help the situation at all, as the sun burned so fiercely. Finally, we decided to avoid driving during the hot afternoons. That helped a little, but it was difficult to see the bumpy road in the evenings, so we had to slow down. We are also starting to get overwhelmed by the distance, but every time I started brooding, Max would tell me silly jokes to lighten the situation. I am not sure if we will make it all the way. There is still 23,000 kilometers more to go, and perhaps we shouldn't have been so ambitious. If only we had invested in a better car. Whatever it is, we will have to get rid of more baggage. I only have myself to blame for not doing my own packing. I also wish I had brought my own camera, a better one, instead of sharing one with Max. We are already starting to bicker, as it is, especially when we are exhausted. I am sure all these will strengthen our friendship in the long run, though. Anyway, it's bedtime. We'll write again soon. Take care. With love, Helmuth.
Notice that I have put the 3 tables into 3 paragraphs. I have a little introduction and also a small conclusion. Don't forget to write the salutation and also the closing to make it a letter. So when you have finished writing the letter, please check your work. In fact, you should check your work after every paragraph, not just at the end. So have a look that you have these things. Very important to have salutation, dear mom, and comma. Closing. With love is an appropriate ending from a son. And sorry, this should be addressed to recipient. I don't know why it has doubled up like that. So you can talk to your mom directly. I miss you dreadfully. We saw your favorite birds, the items that you packed for me, and be very personal because it is an informal letter. Again, if you don't know the difference between formal and informal, remember to watch my video on that. Hello and welcome to English Step by Step. My name is Miss Wee, and today I'd like to do with you question 3, which is the extended response question. And this is the Cambridge English First Language 0500 paper. So this is the exact paper that I'd like to do with you. It's the May-June 2022 paper. That's paper 1, variant 2. These are the steps that we will be taking today. So first we will go straight to the question and underline the keywords so that we know what the question wants. And then we will go to the text. We will aim to underline, identify and underline 4 to 5 points for each section. There will be 3 sections. And then we will fill in the table. I will show you what the table looks like later. And finally, we will write the magazine article. So this is a directed writing question. So this is the question itself. I have already highlighted the keywords in the 3 parts. As you can see, I have used 3 different colors for the 3 different sections. And later, when I identify the points in the passage, I will color code with these same colors. So the points for section 1 will be in blue, section 2 in pink, and section 3 in green. So let's read the question. You are a journalist writing for a teenage magazine. So this is very important. This tells you the audience and therefore the register. So you know that you have to be informal. Magazine some years after the events described in the text. You decide to write a feature article about Audrey Sutherland and her first attempt to paddle Alaska. So in your article, you should explain 1, the opinions and reactions of other people to Audrey's plan to paddle Alaska for the first time, and what was remarkable about the journey. Yeah, so the "and" is in bold, so do make sure that you do both parts. Okay, so second bullet, the preparations she made for this first Alaskan journey. and why these preparations were necessary. So again, there is an and in bold, so make sure that you cover both parts. Okay, the last bullet, why she wanted to paddle Alaska and the rewards of the trip. So same thing again. Now write the words of the article. Base your article on what you have read in text C, but be careful to use your own words. Address each of the 3 bullets, so you should do them equally. Now write about 250 to 350 words. As usual, I would encourage you to write more rather than less. So up to 15 marks are available for the content of your answer and up to 10 marks for the quality of your writing. So more marks for content than for writing. So this is more a reading question than a writing one. Okay, so next step would be to read the text and underline 4 to 5 points for each section. So let's go to the text. So I have already identified the points. So for the first section was opinions and reactions of other people and what was remarkable about the journey. So that one is in blue. So these are the reactions of the people. So her publisher was keen. A stranger sneered at her kayak. Her friends were excited. Her family were worried. And her boss wasn't very supportive. Okay, and then this part is actually what was amazing about the trip. It was very long and dangerous. Okay, then the second part was the preparations she made for this first Alaskan journey and why these preparations were necessary. So this is in pink, the preparations. So she examined the map for her route. She repaired her kayak to make sure it's okay. She bought some foul weather gear and she mailed her camping essentials to her friends. And she also sent resupply boxes of food to post offices. Okay, so these are all from the second bullet. And then the third one, it's why she wanted to paddle Alaska and the rewards of the trip. So that's in green. So yeah, so these are the reasons. So she wanted to enjoy the beautiful scenery. She wanted to build her self-esteem. She wanted to try some natural delicacies. And she wanted to see some wildlife. And she also wanted to be fit. Yeah, so I have actually paraphrased for you. Okay, so next we're going to fill in the table. So this is what the table looks like. So what I have done, so this is the first section, opinions and reactions of other people to Audrey's plan and why it was a remarkable trip. What I have done is to put the things that I've underlined in brackets. Yeah, these are things that I've underlined, from the passage, all these in brackets. And I have paraphrased it. Yeah, in bold, I have paraphrased it. I've done it kind of loosely. So you can see her unsupportive boss thought she was being irresponsible. Okay, so it's not the exact meaning of the words in the brackets because in this question, you will need to be able to adapt the ideas and evaluate and develop them. That's why you have development here. Okay, now, so there are 2 sections. The opinions and reactions are the first 4 points, and why it was a remarkable trip is the last one here. And you can see that I have developed the points. Development means to use your own creative imagination and to give some sort of extension to the ideas in the passage. And that's why it's called the extended response question. So for example, the stranger on the beach scoffed at her kayak, and I put here, he thought she was joking. Now, this is not in the passage. I've added this myself. Her friends and publisher was supportive. You can see here that I've actually merged 2 points together. And some of them were envious. So I've also added this on my own. This is not in the passage. Her family was worried and asked her to reconsider. Again, this is my own idea. Her unsupportive boss thought she was being irresponsible and was shocked when she resigned. Adventurous, so even though it was long and dangerous, she was not perturbed. So this is, again, not in the passage. So let's move on. This is the second part, her preparations and why they were necessary. Now for this one, I have put her preparations here, and why they were necessary, I used it as development. So her preparations, one is she planned the route, and development, she wanted the most scenic route, made sure her kayak was in good shape, so that she wouldn't get stranded in the middle of nowhere, bought equipment because the weather is unpredictable, got some of her equipment to the starting point, so she didn't have to carry everything with her because it would be too heavy. Sent food to herself in case she couldn't get food from the small villages. Okay, so this is the third part, why she wanted to paddle Alaska and the rewards. So one of the reasons she wanted to paddle Alaska was because of the beautiful scenery. She fell in love with Alaska the first time she saw it from a plane. Increased confidence and self-esteem, wanted to inspire the high school students she advises. Try wild food, heard so much about the wild berries. Spot wildlife, once in a lifetime opportunity to see whales and otters in the wild. Fitness, all muscles now. All right, let's go back to the steps. So now we're going to do the last step, which is to write the magazine article. Actually, there should be a step 5, which is to check your work. Okay, so this is the format of a magazine article. You need a title or headline. You can also include a byline, so you can put your name here. So you should have introduction and conclusion, and then 3 body paragraphs to cover the 3 bullets. So this one, you would cover the points in the first table and so on, second and third table. So I have written the article. So let's have a look. So this is what it looks like. I think I am a little bit over 350 words. I think I might be 360. Okay, now this is the title or headline, Alaskan Adventure. So I've done some alliteration here. The byline, I put my name here. And I've started with a rhetorical question. Have you ever wanted to get away from your desk and do something amazingly adventurous? This was precisely what Audrey Sutherland did. She kayaked solo through Alaska, covering over 800 miles of open seas and dangerous straits. And then another rhetorical question. What would your loved ones think if you attempted something like that? Well, when she told her friends and publisher, they were very enthusiastic and even envious. However, her family was worried and hoped that she would reconsider. Worse still, her unsupportive boss thought she was irresponsible and was shocked when Audrey quit her job. Then there was a stranger on the beach that scoffed at her kayak and thought she was joking. Audrey wasn't perturbed by any of that though. Okay, now the second paragraph. She was determined and made sure that she was prepared for the epic trip. She examined the map and carefully chose the most scenic route. Then she made sure her trialed and tested kayak was in tip-top condition for the long trip, so she wouldn't get stranded in the middle of nowhere. She also bought equipment for the unpredictable weather and had them mailed to the starting point of her adventure, so she didn't have to carry everything with her. Last but not least, she sent food to herself. In case she couldn't get food from the small villages along the way, she made sure she had boxes of food waiting for her at post offices. What a genius! Fortunately, Audrey's determination and ingenuity paid off. Audrey's confidence and self-esteem that had been eroded by a mundane office job soared, and her muscles are as hard as rock now. She was also able to immerse herself in the breathtaking scenery of Alaska that she fell in love with when she saw it from a plane. What's more, she got to taste all kinds of wild food, especially the berries that she had been dreaming of. Even more exciting were the whales and otters that she spotted along the way. Nothing can replace such a once-in-a-lifetime experience. So you might notice that I have not followed the order in the table. Yeah, so you should decide what order suits you best or suits the article best. So conclusion is very short. I don't want to waste any words here. Audrey Sutherland is truly an inspiring woman. We are looking forward to the publication of your book, Audrey. Okay, now, next I want to show you some things from the mark scheme. Now, why did I have two columns? One for the development. It's because if you look at the mark scheme, it says notes on task. Candidates should select ideas from the text, which is what we've done, and develop them relevantly. So you have to develop them, supporting what they write with details from the text. So I have those in brackets, which I then loosely paraphrased. Look for an appropriate register for the genre. So this is a magazine article. So we would have an informal register and a clear and balanced response, which means that you cover the three areas of the question equally. It's well sequenced. You have to decide what sequence to have, and it's in the candidate's own words. So please don't lift from the passage. Now, examiners are instructed that alternative correct answers and unexpected approaches in candidate scripts must be given marks. Okay, so they have to be flexible. You will be given 15 marks for reading. You have to read for explicit and implicit meanings. So your ideas and details will be explicit. Your development will be implicit. And this is why you have to develop. They want you to analyze, evaluate, and develop facts. And then you have 10 marks for writing. So you have to write what is thought, felt, and imagined. So for example, when I wrote that she was not perturbed, it's okay, organize and structure. I talked about this before. Decide on what points should come first. You have to use a wide range of vocabulary and sentence structures, so it's not repetitive. And use register appropriate to the context. And of course, you will have to take care of your spelling, punctuation, and grammar. Okay, now, this is the rubric, and I've only taken the highest level for both the reading and writing. So the maximum for reading is 15. So you will get 13 to 15 marks if you have some sort of development that is related to the text. You have a wide range of ideas. I've put down 4 to 5 points. If you really cannot get 4 to 5 points. I think the absolute minimum would be at least 3 points for each section. Okay, so you must have a strong sense of purpose. I'm going to talk about this a bit later on another slide. So all 3 bullets are well covered. Don't neglect any of them. And you need to have a convincing voice. So I'm going to talk about this again a bit later on another slide. Okay, then for writing, you need to have effective register. So we have, you have seen this word many times now. So make sure that you know what this means and how to apply it. So you have to know your audience and the purpose. Yeah, your audience here are teenagers. So make sure you write in a register that is appropriate for them, not too formal. So your response must sound convincing. Yeah, so you must have effective and or interesting language. Structure and sequence again, spelling, punctuation, and grammar, of course. Okay, and this is not from the mark scheme. This is from the examiner report. And this is the advice that they're giving. So read text C more than once. Make sure your register is appropriate for the purpose and audience. Don't invent information that is not clearly linked to the text. Give equal attention to all 3 bullet points. Plan your response beforehand. So that's why we have a table. In the exam, you will not have time to draw and fill in a table, but you should still have some sort of plan. Please use your own words. You need to adapt and develop. You need to have a convincing voice. And please do not waste time counting the words. The suggested word length is just a guide, not a limit. Okay, now we're going to talk about how to create a convincing voice. So you have seen in the mark scheme and the examiner report convincing voice. So one way is to identify your purpose. So you need to know whether you're informing, persuading, entertaining, or expressing. Now, in this particular magazine article, we are informing. You need to understand your audience. Who are you writing for? So here we're writing for a teenage audience. So we need to use the correct register here. So the level of formality is quite low. And you have to maintain a consistent tone. So your attitude. So here is admiration for Audrey Sutherland. Now that's your overall feeling, a feeling of awe. Your stance, you are in full support of what she's doing or what she has done rather. Okay, use specific details from the text. If there are any details involving proper names, this one is from another paper, but this one is from this text. Yeah, so she had to pedal 800 miles. So this will also help you to create a convincing voice. Okay, I think that's all for now. In this video, I will be teaching you how to write a speech for paper 1. The process is the same as in all my other videos on letter writing, article writing, interview writing, journal writing, newspaper writing, and report writing. If you haven't watched those videos, do go and check them out. Another thing I would like to say is that this speech writing video is different from my other ones. Those are for paper 2, which requires evaluation. This one is for paper 1 and it requires development. Welcome to English Step by Step. My name is Miss Wee. I make educational videos for IGCSE English, First Language and Second Language. Do check out the other videos on my channel. In this video, I will be doing the February-March 2023 paper 1-2. So as usual, we'll start with step 1, which is to read the blurb of the text. The blurb is usually in italics. Here I have highlighted it in yellow. The narrator, Susan, recalls first arriving from the town of Seronga with a large group of tourists for a 2-day safari along a river delta with the Okavango Polars Trust, OPT. Susan went on to work with the OPT, staying in the area for over 9 years. Step 2 is to read the question and underline the keywords in the question. So here we have the question. You are Baruti. So there is always a change in perspective. The article was written from Susan's point of view, and now you have to write a speech from Baruti's point of view. Weeks after Susan's arrival, you are giving a speech to a group of local business people to persuade them to support the work of the OPT. So here you have the purpose of your speech, and here you have the audience. So bear these in mind. It will help you create a convincing voice. In your speech, you should explain what exactly the OPT is and what it has achieved so far. Describe what tourists particularly enjoy about trips with the OPT. Suggest how the support of local business people might help the OPT and benefit local people, animals, and the wider region. Write the words of your speech. So the word speech has been mentioned twice. Make sure that you pay attention to it. Base your speech on what you have read in text C. So question 3 is always based on text C. Be careful to use your own words. Don't lift from the text. Address each of the 3 bullet points. Don't miss any of them. Write about 250 to 350 words. I would suggest writing a little bit more than this, as this is only a guide. It's not a limit. I find that it's very difficult to include enough points within 350 words. Up to 15 marks are available for the content of your answer and up to 10 marks for the quality of your writing. Paper 1 is a reading paper and therefore you get more marks for content, but you still need to make sure that your writing is of good quality. So here I've highlighted for you, you are Baruti, very important. Please don't write from Susan's point of view. Weeks after Susan's arrival, you are giving a speech to a group of local business people to persuade them. So it is a persuasive speech to persuade them to support the work of the OPT. So in your speech, you should explain. So I've got here in pink what exactly the OPT is and what it has achieved so far. When I'm looking for the points later, I will highlight the points also in pink. Describe what tourists particularly enjoy about the trips with the OPT. I've highlighted this blue and I will highlight corresponding points in blue. Suggest how the support of local business people might help the OPT and benefit local people, animals, and the wider region. Again, I will highlight the points in the corresponding color. I will not read the rest. We will do step 3 now, which is to read the text and underline 4 to 5 points for each section. You will be able to find usually 3 to 4 explicit points. The last 1 or 2 points may be difficult to find because they are usually implicit points. So you will need to read between the lines to get them. So for the first bullet point, which is about what the OPT is and what they have achieved, I have highlighted it in pink. So the OPT stands for Okavango Polars Trust. And I'm going to use we because I am Baruti, I'm part of the OPT. So my pronoun would be we. And we conduct or we organize 2-day safaris along a river delta. We use a mokoro, which is a dugout canoe, which is propelled by a polar. There are 50 members and we are all local men and we all own our own boat. And we have all learned our polling skills when we were young. So the OPT is a community-owned ecotourism business. And one of our achievements is that we have cleared wasteland to build a permanent camp. Moving on to the next bullet point, which is about what tourists particularly enjoy. So they enjoy contact with wild animals and water plants. They enjoy the scenery of the clear water. They enjoy the way we have organized the trips for them. They also appreciate our skill and our friendliness. They like the camping experience and also the authentic and affordable trips. Next, I'm going to fill in the tables. Now, in some videos, I have 3 columns: points, detail, and development. Here, I have simplified it into 2 columns only, but I will try to retain specific details, which I have underlined. So what OPT is and what it has achieved. So make sure that you paraphrase the points. You have to use your own words, remember that. OPT stands for Okavango Polar Trust, and it conducts 2-day river tours for tourists. So make sure to develop, that is to extend the points from the text with your own imagination. So here I would say it is unique and can be found nowhere else in the world. There are 50 members and we all own our own boats and have learned this should be our polling skills from young. We are passionate about what we do. The boats are called Mokoro, which are dugout canoes, and they are pushed by polers. There should be the word R here. Eventually, we hope to change these to greener alternatives. Greener means more environmentally friendly. It is an environmentally friendly business that is collectively owned by all the 50 members. So sustainability is our priority. We have built a camp at Saronga for tourists. At present, the facilities are still very basic. So that's why we're going to ask for help later. So notice that I have kept the specific details. Anything that involves names or numbers, you should try and retain them. The next table is about what tourists enjoy. Encounters with wild animals is one of the things they enjoy, especially the hippos, which are sometimes very funny. The clear water and water plants, the water lilies are their favorite. Camping at night, interacting with one another at the campfire. Our skill and friendliness, we make sure they are safe and comfortable at all times. The genuine and budget-friendly experience, direct contact with locals and animals. The last part is about how local business people can help and how this will help local people, animals, and the wider region. So we need sponsorship to convert to fiberglass canoes, and this will save many trees in the area. We also need to install solar-powered showers for tourists. And when there are more tourists, other businesses will also benefit. We need a loan to buy a truck to transport both tourists and necessities for the campsite. We need to source for books to help us study for exams. So we need to improve on our English to become better guides. By attracting a wider range of visitors, all businesses will enjoy a rise in revenue, and Saronga will prosper. When you're writing the speech later, you can change or adjust any of the points that don't fit in. I think I have changed this in my actual speech itself. The next step is to write the speech. But as usual, I want to talk to you about creating a convincing voice, because this is what examiners look for, as I will show you in the examiner comment later. So to create a convincing voice, I want you to think of these 3 things: PAT, P for purpose, and here is to ask for help. Your audience is the local business people, so you don't want to be too informal. The tone here is humble and respectful. And here we have the speech.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Baruti, and I'm truly honored to have you here today. I know your time is valuable, so I will get straight to the point. First, let me introduce the Okavango Polars Trust, OPT. We are a community-owned, environmentally friendly business with 50 members, all of whom own their boats. Polling is not just a skill to us, It is part of who we are. As you know, we use mokoros, traditional dugout canoes, to guide tourists through the stunning waterways of the Okavango Delta. However, we hope to transition to greener, more sustainable alternatives. So far, we have successfully conducted hundreds of two-day river tours, giving visitors an unforgettable experience. Our biggest achievement is the campsite we built for tourists, though its facilities remain quite basic. Tourists often tell us that our river safaris are the highlight of their trips. They enjoy spotting wildlife, especially hippos, which can be both thrilling and entertaining. Gliding through crystal-clear waters, admiring water lilies, and camping under the stars offer them peace and connection with nature. Many cherish the campfire experience, where they swap stories and immerse themselves in the local culture. We are proud that visitors appreciate our skill and hospitality, and we always ensure their safety and comfort. But we need your help to take OPT to the next level. You might wonder, what's in it for you? Please hear me out. We need sponsorship to transition from traditional mokoros to fiberglass canoes, allowing us to protect our beloved trees while maintaining our sustainable tours. Improving our campsite with solar-powered showers will enhance visitor comfort, attracting more tourists and boosting the local economy. Additionally, we require a loan to purchase a truck for transporting tourists and essential supplies, and we are fully prepared to repay it with interest. Furthermore, many of us lack formal education, making it difficult to access study materials for licensing exams. So we seek assistance in sourcing books that will help us professionalize our services. Supporting us is not just an investment in OPT, it is an investment in Saronga's future. It will create jobs, increase local income, and protect the environment, all while offering tourists a truly unique and meaningful experience. We deeply appreciate your time and consideration. Your support means everything to us. Thank you.
The next step is to check your work. And here I want to talk about using a right forest technique. If you haven't heard of this, I have a video based on that. I will put the link up here. A right forest is an acronym, and it stands for anecdote, rhetorical questions, imperatives, personal pronouns, emotive language, facts, opinions, repetition, exaggeration, statistics, and triplets. So I'm going to show you how I've used some of them here. Here I've used fact, 50 members. Opinion, or tourists often tell us that our river safaris are the highlight of their trips. I've used inclusive pronouns like we and your. I've used emotive language, our beloved trees. Triplets here, create jobs, increase local income, protect the environment. Imperative here, please hear me out. Rhetorical question, what's in it for you? And repetition. Supporting us is not just an investment in OPT, it is an investment in Saronga's future. So using a right forest technique will make your speech very natural sounding and more interesting. Let's have a look at the mark scheme. It says to get level 5, which is the highest for reading. Reading is you get a maximum of 15 marks. And in order to get level 5, your response should reveal a thorough evaluation and analysis of the text, so you understand all the explicit and implicit details. Developed ideas are sustained and well related to the text, and this is why I have a separate column for development. A wide range of ideas is applied, so I've suggested 4 to 5 points in each section. There is supporting details throughout, which you will have if you have development. All 3 bullets are well covered. Make sure you don't miss out the last one, which a lot of students do. A consistent and convincing voice is used, and that's why I have a slide to talk about convincing voice. Please look at that slide again if you have forgotten. Now for writing, there are 10 marks. And you can get 10 marks if you have effective register for audience and purpose. Now remember that we were talking about the audience being local business people. So you need to have like a semi-formal register, not something that is too informal. And the purpose is to convince you to help them. So make sure that you are being very persuasive. The language of the response sounds convincing and consistently appropriate. So it is convincing that you are Baruti. So make sure that you get into character before you start writing. Writing a directed piece of writing in the IGCSE First Language paper is almost like acting in a play. You have to get into character. Ideas are firmly expressed in a wide range of effective and/or interesting language, and that's why we should use a red forest technique. Structure and see will also put the link in the description box below. So step 1 is to read the title and the blurb. So let's do that now. Mr. Penumbra's 24-hour bookstore. The narrator, Clay, is young and talented, but struggling to find a new job. After months of searching, including walking the streets each day looking for advertisements in shop windows, he finds just one job to apply for. So you can imagine that he would be rather desperate by now. So this part here is called the blurb. You can see is in italics. Now let's move on to step 2, which is to read the question and underline the keywords in the question. If you would like to try to underline the keywords on your own, please pause the video to do so. Otherwise, I will be doing it for you now. Imagine you are Mr. Penumbra. Now remember that the text was written from Clay's point of view. Now you have to write from Mr. Penumbra's point of view. Clay has been working in your store now for over a year. So please don't say yesterday. And has suggested ways to improve the bookshop and increase trade. You reflect on your thoughts and Clay's suggestions in your journal. So I put this in red because this is very important. You must write in the genre that is specified. Now, in your journal, you should remember what exactly happened the day you first met Clay and your impressions of him. Now, notice that I have highlighted the 3 parts in 3 different colors because when I go to the passage later, I will highlight the points for the first one in this color, the second in this, and the third in this. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm color coding. Write your journal entry. Base your journal entry on what you have read in text C, but be careful to use your own words. So please don't look at the wrong text. It's always text C for question 3. And use your own words, so you need to learn to paraphrase, you need to learn up some synonyms, and I will be making a video on that later. Address each of the 3 bullet points, so please address them equally. Write about 250 to 350 words. This is just a guide, it is not a limit, so don't get too hung up about this. The next thing I want to look at is the tense that we should be using. Now, this first part has already happened, so I would use past tense. Now, this says reflect on the shop as it is now, so I would use present tense. And here outline the suggestions Clay has made. Here you would have a mixture of tenses. Now let's go on to step 3, which is to read the text and underline 4 to 5 points for each section. So here is the text. If you would like to find the points, please pause the video and look for the points. Here I have highlighted the points according to the color that I used for the 3 bullet points. So for the first part, I have used this blue color. So I have 5 points here. On the day that I first met Clay, he was looking for advertisements in shop windows, and he pushed the heavy door to come in the bookstore. He said that he was looking for a job. I asked him if he had ever worked in one before, and then I asked him about his favorite book, and he told me it was the Dragon Song Chronicles. Lastly, I sent him out a letter to test whether he is able to retrieve a book for me. So that's for the first part. Now for the second part, what I like about the bookstore now. So first of all, I like the quality of books that I have. I also like the tall shelves that are able to hold a great quantity of books. I like the old-fashioned style of my bookstore, including the wooden items such as the wooden desk and perhaps even the wooden door. I also like that it's not too bright and noisy, so it's very peaceful. So for the third part, suggestions that Clay has made, I'm going to take the point from here. He used to design marketing materials, so I can imagine that he would suggest making some for Mr. Penumbra's bookstore. He might also redesign the logo and set up a website. Now, Clay had difficulty pushing the door, so he might suggest changing it. He might also suggest changing the shelving system because he was so frightened when he was up on the ladder. So that's the other thing as well that he might suggest, changing the desk because it's so massive and so heavy and so old-fashioned. Now that we have underlined the points for each section, we're going to fill in the table, which I'm going to show you. But before that, I want to talk about voice. So we want to create a convincing voice for Mr. Penumbra. So we have to think about three things then. The first is the purpose. So what's the purpose of him writing this journal entry? So perhaps it is to reflect on and to clarify his thoughts. Now I've written your thoughts because you are Mr. Penumbra. Okay, then the audience, that's yourself. So remember that you are an old man. Don't write like a teenager. T is for tone. You can choose the tone that you want. Perhaps you're grateful because Clay has been a great help. Perhaps you are annoyed because of all the suggestions that he has made and perhaps you don't like them. You could also be confused. Perhaps you don't know whether to implement the suggestions. Here we have the first table. There will be 3 because there are 3 bullet points. What happened the day you met Clay and your impression of him? I have put this in red because you are Mr. Penumbra, so please write in first person point of view. I put Clay in green because now he is in the third person. So let's look at the points. Please paraphrase the points. If you remember, the question says to use your own words. But also please retain specific details because you get marks for them. I have underlined my details. And then you also need to develop. So using your own imagination. You also get marks for development, so make sure that you do so. So let's look at the points. A young man looked at my advertisement in the shop window and walked in. Development, I was waiting for someone to respond to my advertisement, so I was pleased. You don't have to use exactly what you've written here when you finally write the journal. Clay was looking for a job, but he hadn't worked in a bookshop before, so I felt worried. I asked him what his favorite book was, and he replied, Dragon Song Chronicles. I was impressed. So you'll see that a lot of the development involves your reaction or your feelings or your thoughts as well. I sent him up the ladder to retrieve a book. He seemed nervous but managed to get the book. There are good quality books in my shop, especially the gold leaf titles. One can't find these books anywhere anymore. The tall shelves are able to hold a great number of books, and they are the reason why I can offer a wide variety of books. I love the old-fashioned design of the bookstore. The oak door and desk are my favorite items. It is dark and quiet. People can escape from the outside world of hustle and bustle. So I've underlined the specific details that are from the passage. This is the last table for the last bullet point, Clay's suggestions for improving the bookstore. I have simplified the question so that I am sure that I have understood it. Let's look at the points. So Clay wants to make marketing materials to promote the shop. And I do agree that it would be good to have more business. He wants to build a website. I will leave this to him. Not sure what he's talking about. I'm an old man. I don't know much about technology. So he wants to change the wooden door to a glass one that is more inviting. I could be a bit surprised because I never knew the wooden door was formidable. He has suggested lowering the shelves. Well, I suppose customers can't access the upper shelves anyway, so perhaps we should do that. Change the humongous wooden desk to a simple counter to make space for the shelves. Not sure what I feel about this. I really love my oak table. Okay, now we are going to write the journal. So before we do so, let's look at the characteristics of a journal. So first, we need to have a date. It should be in the first person perspective. I, me, my, mine. It should be conversational, as if the writer is talking to themselves. It should be reflective, so there are lots of feelings, thoughts, reactions. And here are some common expressions. Today was a roller coaster of emotions. It felt like a breath of fresh air. My heart is heavy. Looking ahead. Here we have the journal, and I'm going to let AI read to you in a man's voice.
October 8th, 2024. Dear Diary, how time flies. I still remember that day I employed Clay. I had been waiting for someone to respond to my advertisement, so when he walked in, asking for a job, I was hopeful. I was a little worried at first when he told me that he had never worked in a bookshop before, but I soon warmed up to him after he informed me that his favorite book was Dragon's Song Chronicles, which also happens to be my favorite book. Anyway, I decided to send him up a ladder to test him, and he passed with flying colors, despite looking a little nervous. All that was a year ago already, can you believe it? Clay seems genuine and eager to help me improve the bookstore. The thing is, I like my bookstore the way it is now. Not many bookstores can boast the number of books that I have, thanks to the tall shelves. My books are my treasures, especially the gold leaf titles. I challenge you to find these books elsewhere. I know that young people don't appreciate traditional items anymore, but I am an old man. I know it is not the best for business, but I like how quiet and dim the shop is. It is a sanctuary from the busy world outside. But I really need to think about the suggestions Clay has made. He wants to design some flyers, and he has my approval. Then he mentioned something about a website. I'm too old for technology, so I will leave this to him. Clay has also suggested several other things, such as the shelves, which are apparently too high. I suppose he is right, customers can't really access the upper shelves. The next thing he mentioned was the desk I so love. Getting rid of it will make more space for shelves. Sigh, I hate it when he is right. Now, what else? Oh, the door needs to be changed to a glass one. Apparently it is formidable. Anyway, it is late, and I should go to bed. Perhaps tomorrow I will have a clearer idea what needs to be done.
Okay, so the last step is to check your work. I want to break things down for you. So in orange are the things that I've done to create a convincing journal and also a convincing voice for Mr. Penumbra. So for journal, I have started with a date. I have also used the phrase, Dear Diary. You don't have to, but I think it's nice to let the examiner know that you are doing in the right genre. I have used a very conversational tone. I have been reflective, talking about my feelings. I have used first person perspective. I've also talked about my identity and perspective. I am an old man. I have made a personal remark such as this. I'm also very raw and unfiltered. I hate it when he's right. So that helps me create a convincing voice. So here in green, I have used a right forest technique. If you haven't watched the video on this, I will put a link here. I will also put the link in the description box below. So make sure that you go and watch that video. So a right forest basically is an acronym, and it stands for A for alliteration, rhetorical question, imperative, personal pronouns, exaggeration, facts, opinions, repetition, emotive language, statistics, and triplets. I haven't used all of them, of course, but I've used a few. So rhetorical question, can you believe it? Exaggeration, my books are my treasures. Opinion, I like my bookstore the way it is now. Imperative, I challenge you to find these books elsewhere. And lots of personal pronouns as well. I want you to also take note of the other things that I've done. I have made sure that I have sentences of different lengths to create variety. Again, I have a video on this. I will put the link here or in the description box below. I also have different sentence types. Again, I have a video. I will put the link here or in the description box. I have also made sure to use some advanced vocabulary, and again, I do have a video on this. Make sure that you do watch it. So before we end, I want to show you something from the examiner report. This is their advice to candidates on question 3, and one of them is to consider the perspective required for the task. For example, the voice being created as well as the purpose and audience of the task. And also to give equal attention to all 3 bullet points, and also to use your own words. The suggested word length is a guide, not a limit. I hope that you have found this useful. Please share with your friends. Please like and subscribe. Welcome to English Step by Step. My name is Miss Wee. Today we will be doing interview writing from this paper, Cambridge IGCSE 0500 paper 1-1, and this is the May-June 2021 paper. So as usual, the first step is to read the blurb of the text. So here we are. The blurb is usually the italicized first paragraph of the passage. The narrator, Chris, is currently traveling alone through Canada. He has stopped at a visitor center to use their telephone and buy a map. He is about to leave when someone approaches, pushing a small touring bike. Now let's go on to step 2, which is to read the question and then underline the keywords in the question. When you read the blurb, you notice that the narrator is Chris. Now you are writing from Vivian's point of view. This is probably the person who was pushing the touring bike. So you are Vivian. Several months after completing your journey, you have written a book about the experience. You are interviewed for a television show to promote your book. So the interviewer asks the following 3 questions only. Can you tell us about the early part of your journey and the kind of difficulties you faced? Part of your journey was traveling with Chris. What benefits and drawbacks were there for each of you in traveling together? You finished your journey alone. Why was that? How do you think the journey changed you? So write the words of the interview. So please highlight the keywords here. And here I've done it for you. So you are Vivian, very important. And you are interviewed for a television show to promote your book. Here I have color coded it because later on in the passage, I will highlight the points of the 3 different parts using these 3 different colors. So here we have the early part of my journey and the difficulties I faced. Here is my journey with Chris, the benefits and drawbacks of us traveling together. And here why I finished my journey alone and how I've changed. So I've highlighted just the keywords, as few words as possible, so that I can really focus on what is needed. Here I've highlighted it in red because it's very important to write in the correct format or the correct genre. Now we'll go on to step 3, which is to read the text and underline 4 to 5 points for each section. So please pause the video and do that on your own. I'm going to move on. And here I've done it for you. For the first part, I've done it in pink. The first bullet point was about the early parts of my journey and the problems that I had. So I ran out of water, my bike broke, I lost all my food, I was quite slow and unfit. I didn't know how to use the gear. I had thrown away some essentials. I was terrified of wildlife. Some more things that I had thrown away. I was out of my comfort zone. and I got lost as well. So for the second part, it's about the benefits and drawbacks of me traveling with Chris. So the benefits obviously is that Chris fixed my wheel, taught me how to use the right gear, found a good spot for us to camp, cooked us dinner, and I arranged hosts for us in the next town, and we got along well and were good company for each other. For the third part, it was why I continued the rest of the journey alone and how I changed. So I have that in green. I'll start with this one. So I had more confidence and greater direction in life. I was fitter, so I could even go faster than Chris at one point. Why I continued the rest of the journey alone was because I was hurt that Chris wanted to cycle separately for the rest of the day. Now, I've also highlighted these parts here because I'm going to mention it later that Vivian felt a bit patronized by Chris. Now we will do step 4, which is to fill in the tables. We have 3 tables like this. This is for the first bullet point. This is the early part of my journey. I put this in red to remind myself that I am Vivian. So for the points you want to paraphrase, don't use the words in the text, but retain specific details to show that you've understood the passage. And then you have to develop and extend the points. First, I didn't have enough water and food. That was one of the difficulties because I hadn't planned carefully. I was unfit and couldn't pedal uphill. I didn't have time to build up my fitness before the trip. I had thrown away my stove and mirror amongst other things because they were too heavy. These were things mentioned in the passage, so I want to retain them. I thought that getting rid of some weight would help me. I was terrified of seeing bears, so I pitched my tent at petrol stations. I've never really seen wildlife except at the zoo. I didn't know how to use the bicycle and was often in the wrong gear. I should have learned more about the bike before the trip. Moving on to the next bullet point, this is the benefit and drawback of traveling with Chris. So he shared his food and water with me and he cooked for both of us. I don't know what I would have done had I not met Chris. He also fixed my wheel and taught me to use the right gear. I'm ever so grateful. He found us a breathtaking spot to camp, but I was worried about bears. We were company for each other. Playing games while cycling through the boring prairies kept us sane. This is the third bullet point, why again I put it in red to remind myself that I am Vivian, why I finished alone and how the journey changed me. Chris asked to cycle the rest of the day alone. I was offended and decided to continue on my own. So I've changed the word from hurt to offended. I thought we were getting along. I guess not. We were very different. At times I felt that he was condescending or insensitive. Although he never said it, his eyes showed me his thoughts. I am much fitter now. I can cycle uphill. I'm also more confident. I feel like I can do anything now. I feel like I have a greater sense of direction in life now. I want to be more involved in humanitarian work. Now that we've done the 3 tables, we're going to write the interview. So here is my interview.
Can you tell us about the early part of your journey and the kind of difficulties you faced?
You wouldn't believe how ill-prepared I was. I didn't even have sufficient water and food. Can you believe it? To make matters worse, I was also out of shape because I simply didn't have time to go to the gym before the trip due to work commitments. The lack of time also meant that I didn't have the chance to familiarize myself with my new bike. I didn't even know how to use the gears. Please don't laugh when I tell you this next thing. I discarded my stove and mirror, amongst other essentials, thinking shedding weight would help, but it didn't. As if all that wasn't bad enough, I was petrified of bears, having only seen them in zoos before.
Part of your journey was traveling with Chris. What benefits and drawbacks were there for each of you in traveling together?
I was incredibly fortunate to have met Chris, because I probably would not have survived without his food and water. Seriously though, he does cook delightful meals on his stove. He also repaired my bike and taught how to use gears, so you can imagine how grateful I am. Chris has a wealth of knowledge and knows the most awe-inspiring places to camp, but I didn't appreciate him mocking my fear of encountering wildlife. All in all, we were good company for each other, especially during the monotonous stretch through the prairies, where we played games and kept each other entertained.
You finished your journey alone. Why was that? How do you think the journey changed you?
Speaking of that, he wanted to cycle the rest of the day alone. I was offended and chose to continue solo. I thought we were getting along well, apparently not. Oh well, we're vastly different anyway. At times I felt like he was deriding me for being a city girl. He never said it explicitly, you know, but I could see it in his eyes and demeanour. How has the journey transformed me? Let's see. First of all, I am significantly fitter and can cycle uphill with ease. I am also more self-assured. If I can cycle 3,200 kilometres, I can accomplish anything. I've certainly developed a stronger sense of direction. I now aspire to engage in more humanitarian work and write more books, without a doubt.
Okay, we have done the interview, so make sure you check your work for spelling, punctuation, and grammatical errors. Here, I'm going to break things down for you and show you how I've made it sound like an interview. First of all, I've used conversational tone like this, you wouldn't believe. I've used informal language. I simply didn't have time to go to the gym. I've used contractions, didn't, wasn't, etc. And a bit of humor as well. Please don't laugh. I've used short sentences here and there, apparently not. I have used colloquial expressions. You can imagine how grateful I am. Oh well. Exclamations as well, having only seen them in zoos before. Without a doubt, I can accomplish anything. I've also used interjections like this. Here I have put the more advanced vocabulary in red. Make sure that you have some of these. Don't overdo it. I've also made sure that I have sentence variety. Don't worry about what these mean. Just make sure that you have different types of sentence structure. I have a video on the more basic type of sentence structures. I will put a link up here or in the description box below. I will be doing another more advanced sentence structure video later on. Please look out for that. Here I have used a right forest technique. If you don't know what this is, I'm going to put a link up here again or in the description box below. So here I've used rhetorical question. Can you believe it? Imperative, please don't laugh. I've used emotive language. Opinion, Chris has a wealth of knowledge. Pronouns, he, we, I, and fact, I cycled 3,200 kilometers. Now, let me show you the mark scheme so that you know why I've done things in a certain way. So this is the marking criteria for reading and writing. I've only taken the highest level, level 5. So for reading, you can get a maximum of 15 marks, and for writing, 10 marks. Or to get level 5 for reading, you need to have a thorough evaluation and analysis of the text. So you should understand not just the explicit details, but also the implicit ones. Your developed ideas are sustained and related to the text. You have a wide range of ideas. You have supporting detail. All 3 bullets are well covered. And you have a convincing voice. Now, for writing, you need to have effective register. So whether it's formal or informal. Here it was rather informal. So the response must sound convincing. So it must sound like you are Vivian. Okay, then you have used a wide range of effective and or interesting language. And this is why I have used advanced vocabulary, a variety of sentence structures, and a right forest technique. Structure and sequence are sound throughout. So your organization is good. Now, this is from the examiner report. This is advice to candidates on question 3. Remember to base your answer on ideas in text C. Keep in mind the new perspective. So if you remember, the text is written from Chris's point of view, but the interview is from Vivian's point of view. Keep the audience and purpose in mind. Decide on the voice and the style and maintain that. Make sure it's consistent. Don't invent information beyond the scope of the passage. Give equal attention to all 3 bullet points. You can choose not to follow the order of the bullet points. And please remember to use your own words. I hope that you found this video helpful. If so, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. Today, we will be writing a newspaper report. I hope you have checked out my videos on magazine article writing, journal writing, interview writing, letter writing, and also speech writing. Welcome back to English Step by Step. I am Miss Wee. We will be doing the May-June 2019 paper 2-3. As usual, we will be following the steps. Step 1 is to read the blurb of the text. Here is the text, and here is the blurb in italics. A blockade stopping ships from entering the port has caused shortages of supplies on an island. Water rationing is in place. Taps have been turned off, and islanders have to make do with just 1 liter of drinking water a day for the months until the autumn rain. The next step is to read the question and underline the keywords in the question. This is the question. You can pause the video to underline or highlight the keywords. Now I've done it for you. I've highlighted the important words in yellow, and I've color-coded the 3 bullet points so that when I look for the points later, I will highlight according to these colors. Usually, the second part of the sentence after the word "and," it's the development that they want to see. And you may or may not be able to find them in the passage, but you can always come up with your own. The next step is to read the text and underline 4 to 5 points for each section. The first section is conditions during the blockade and effect on the population and economy. So I have that in pink: shortages of supplies, water rationing, just 1 liter of drinking water a day. So the tourists have left, and people couldn't wash and bathe properly. The city was quieter, and people were suffering. The second part of the question is about how the incident at the Al Jafas came about, what happened and why, and that's in blue. So we have here in blue. So the narrator and Marchand climbed the hill basically to visit him and found him in his pool. So they told him that he should conserve the water. They were ignored, and more people visited him a few days later, but they found the pool empty, and Al Jafar lied that he didn't have the water. The third section is about the nature of Al Jafar's complaints and how far they are justified. So I have them in green. So I've highlighted the points from the narrator's point of view. In red, I have made some notes from Al Jafar's point of view, what he would be complaining about. So here he would be complaining about trespassing. Here he might complain that they demanded for his water, and they were threatening and violent. They damaged his property and stole his water. The next step, as usual, is to fill in the 3 tables. So the first table is for the first bullet point: conditions during the blockade and effect on the population/economy. So I've done this according to the mark scheme. If you look at the mark scheme, you will see the points detail and development. You will get marks not just for the points, but also for detail and development. So it's important that you have these. Now I have 5 points here and 5 details and 5 development. That is the ideal number. But if you cannot find 5 points and 5 details and 5 development, try to have at least 4. Given the time limit and the word limit, even though the word limit is not a strict limit, you may find it challenging to include so many points and details and development. Let's go through my table now. So the first point relating to the conditions during the blockade is the lack of fuel. So there were fewer cars on the road. And my development is that the people could not run vehicles or machinery because of the lack of energy. So there was water rationing. The detail from the text states that there was only 1 liter of drinking water a day. So my development is that people were getting thirstier and also dirtier. No tourists. The detail is that the visitors had left, so the people had no income. Economic conditions deteriorated. The city was quieter. Shops started to close. People were suffering. So these are the words from the passage. desiccated, dehydrated, crumbling. They were getting weaker and less able to function. This is for the second bullet point, how the incident at Al Jafar's came about, what happened, and why. So some residents of the island paid Al Jafar a visit. This is from the text. They knew he was wasting fresh water by swimming in it. They told him he should save and share the water. So that's what they said to him. Al Jafar was selfish and refused to take them seriously. A few days later, a bigger group visited Al Jafar again. So in the text, you will see this. Martian began to lead us up the hill. They were desperately thirsty. They found the pool empty. The water was gone. It had been drained. So they confronted Al Jafar. That's what they said. And Al Jafar did not care about the plight of others. This is a third bullet point, the nature of Al Jafar's complaints and how far they are justified. They were trespassing on his property. There was a chain across the driveway, but they ignored it. They also ignored the keep out sign out of desperation for water. They demanded for his water. That's what they said. Although the water is rightfully his, he should still have shared it. That's my development. I think I should have had this in speech marks. They damaged his property. The door began to split. They used an axe to break the door. The broken door was an expensive one. They took his water. This is our water. Al Jafar's wife said this. And they left nothing for him. Now we're going to write the newspaper report. But before that, let's look at the key characteristics of a newspaper report or newspaper article. So we need a headline that is short and attention-grabbing, which summarizes the main point of the article in very few words, and it uses active verbs, making the headline dynamic and engaging. Next, we need a lead paragraph. This is your first paragraph, and this paragraph should answer key questions: the who, what, when, where, why, and how. Now, this paragraph summarizes the main point and provides the gist of the story. Now, the structure is an inverted pyramid style, which means the most important information comes first, followed by supporting details and background information. Let me show you what an inverted pyramid style looks like. So the most important information comes in the lead paragraph, which contains the most crucial information. In the body paragraphs, there will be additional details in descending order of importance, and we will put the less important information in the conclusion. Next, your newspaper report needs to be factual and objective. So focus on facts, presents events and details accurately. Do not be biased if at all possible. You may want to include quotations of direct and indirect speeches. So include quotes from witnesses, experts, or involved individuals. You will also have to specify who said what. A newspaper report is a formal piece of writing, so make sure that you use standard English, no slang, and no contractions. You have to write in third-person perspective in order to have an impersonal voice and to maintain objectivity. Then in the concluding paragraph, there could be a summary or future implications that is to hint at what's next. Now let's go on to the newspaper report.
Recent events highlight island's struggles during blockade. The lifting of the blockade 2 days ago has brought a glimmer of hope to the island's residents, who endured weeks of unimaginable hardship. Water rationing is no longer required, and supply chains are gradually being restored. But tensions remain high after a controversial incident at Don Al Jafar's hilltop property. The blockade brought life on the island to a standstill. With fuel supplies exhausted, cars vanished from the roads and public transport ceased. Water was rationed to just 1 litre per person daily, leaving residents thirstier and dirtier by the day. The usually vibrant city grew quieter as shops closed, and the once thriving tourism industry came to a halt as visitors fled. Economic conditions plummeted, and the population, dehydrated and weakened, found it increasingly difficult to function. People were suffering under the pressure of survival, one observer noted. Amid this desperate scenario, Don Al-Jafar's mansion became a focal point of tension. Residents knew he had a freshwater swimming pool, which they considered wasteful. A small group climbed the hill to confront him, urging, "You should conserve this water." Al-Jafar, however, dismissed their concerns. Days later, with the situation worsening, a larger group, led by Marchand, ascended the hill again. Desperation turned to anger when they found the pool drained. Confronting Al-Jafar, they demanded, "We want the water." Al-Jafar reportedly barricaded himself inside, while the group ignored the "Keep Out" sign and broke through a chained driveway. Their frustration escalated as they threatened, "We'll break this down." As the door began to splinter, Al-Jafar's family grew frightened. Ultimately, the residents accessed the stored water, leaving Al-Jafar's property damaged. Now, Al-Jafar has lodged formal complaints, citing trespassing, threats, and significant property damage, including a broken door. While the water was his legal property, many argue he should have shared it during such a dire crisis. The incident highlights the moral dilemmas that arise in emergencies, with the community divided over whether Al-Jafar's stance was justifiable or selfish. The island faces not only recovery, but also reconciliation in the wake of these events.
The final thing to do is to check your work. I'm just going to break things down here for you. So here we have a short attention-grabbing headline. This is the lead paragraph, and it answers the who, what, when, where, and why questions. We have quotations. This is written in third-person perspective. I have used the inverted pyramid format, as explained before. Events are described in chronological order. The concluding remark summarizes the article and hints at broader implications for the community. I hope that you have found this useful, and do make sure that you check my other videos out. We will be doing a formal report from this paper, May-June 2024, paper 1-1. Welcome to English Step by Step. I am Miss Wee, and here are the steps. We will start with step 1, which is to read the blurb of the text. Also read the title, Riding the Rails, Learning How to Drive a Dog Sled. In this article, journalist Lynn Marshall looks back at her adventure holiday in Alaska. We will move on to step 2, which is to read the question and underline the keywords in the question. Here is the question. If you want to underline or highlight the question on your own, please pause the video to do so. I have highlighted the question in yellow and the important parts in red. And then I've color-coded the 3 bullet points because I will color the points in the passage according to these colors. Now you are Mike, the ultimate experience travel company which advertises your expeditions has seen Lynn Marshall's article reviewing her holiday in Alaska and has some concerns about the expedition and about using dogs to pull sleds. The company has asked you for a formal report. In your report, you should explain exactly what happened during the evening exploration and the measures you take to ensure the safety and comfort of tourists. Remind the company of the different things tourists enjoy about the holiday you offer and why. Reassure the company that its various concerns about using dogs to pull sleds are unfounded and explain why you think that this form of transport is important to protect. Write the words of the report so they will repeat the format or the genre So make sure you pay attention to the format in which you have to write. So write from the point of view of Mike. And you will see that all of these bullet points have two parts. Usually the second part is the development. So sometimes you may not be able to find the points from the passage because you will have to come up with your own points. Other times you will be able to find some of the points from the second part from the passage, but not always. Step 3 is to read the text and underline 4 to 5 points for each section. Ideally, you should find 5 points. If you can't find 5 points, then try to find at least 4. Here is the passage. If you want to highlight the points for the 3 different parts, please pause the video to do so. I have done it for you here. So the first part is in pink, the second is in blue, and the third is in green. The first part involves what happened during the evening exploration and the measures you take to ensure the safety and comfort of tourists. It's in pink. So I've highlighted my points in pink. So I've got here a scent distracted my lead dog and the whole pack went in the opposite direction. Then when they were tired, they stopped and Mike found me. This is from Lynn's point of view. So when you write the report, it needs to be from Mike's point of view. So that's what happened. And measures to ensure safety and comfort of tourists, I would mention the tracker, the extra clothing and supplies to start a fire, padded trousers, and both theory and practical lessons. The next part involves things tourists enjoy and why. I have that in blue. So they enjoy the Alaskan wilderness, the perfection of eagle, the expeditions that are adventurous, the eco lifestyle, and the forest and the lake, the adrenaline charged downhill run, and the aurora borealis. The third part is about the concerns about using dogs to pull sleds. So you have to address the concerns and explain why this form of transport is important to protect. That's in green. So the concerns are unfounded because the dogs are happy, they are secured and cared for. Their health and well-being are paramount. And this form of transportation should be protected because it leaves a minimal carbon footprint. It is a traditional practice, and it may be the only escape route. Step 4 is to fill in the table. If you have watched my previous videos, you will know what the table looks like. This is for the first bullet point, which is what happened during the exploration, and measures, there should be an S here, to ensure safety and comfort of tourists. So in this table, we have 3 columns. We have the points, detail, and development. In one of my videos, I have a simplified table where I only have point and development. I will put a link up here. Do go and check it out. So what happened during the evening exploration? And the measures, again, this should be plural. It's the development. And the details are from the text. So first, the main dog got distracted by a smell. This is the word from the text. I may or may not include them in my final report, depending on whether they are already in my point or not. Tourists given lessons to deal with unexpected situations. The entire team bounded in another direction. In the text, it says opposite direction. My development is that padded trousers made it less uncomfortable. The pack got tired and decelerated. From the text, it says fatigued. They finally stopped at a familiar place as trained. So this is my development. We found her. Her means Lynn. This was in the text, so it was not difficult to locate her. We carry supplies with us at all times. Extra clothing is in the text. Can make a fire at any time in case of emergency. This is the next table, things tourists enjoy. I don't know why I keep forgetting the plural and why. I have the S here. Things tourists enjoy from the text and why. They like the town of Eagle. This is the word found from the text because it's quaint, interesting, historical. They also like the scenery, Alaskan wilderness, spruce forests, glassy lake. And that's my development. That is so vast. Tourists also enjoy the adventure, expeditions, downhill run. So these are all once-in-a-lifetime experiences, unique experiences. Environmentally friendly way of living. This is mentioned in the text. They learn a lot. The tourists learn a lot. Night skies. So this is in the text, and it's a very rare experience. This is the third table, concerns about using dogs and why this form of transport should be protected. So it's sustainable, minimal carbon footprint, much better than any modes of transport in the city. Traditional form of transport, traditional dog sleds, used for years without any dispute. The dogs are happy, yappy team. They are proud of their work. They are well taken care of, secured and cared for. We feed them before we feed ourselves. It's the only way to escape, your escape route. The only way to travel as well, probably, when everything is frozen. Now we're going to write a report. But before we do that, let's analyze the characteristics of a formal report. So first of all, it has to be very objective. The language should be formal, impartial, professional. It has a clear structure. So there will be a title, an introduction, a few body paragraphs with subheadings, and a conclusion. So content should be evidence-based, i.e. factual. Language should be formal, so no colloquial expressions or contractions, no phrasal verbs, no informal language. And passive voice wherever possible. If you're not sure about formal and informal language, I have a video on that. Please go and check it out.
Formal report, addressing concerns about Alaskan expeditions and dog sledding, prepared by Mike Smith for the Ultimate Experience Travel Company. Introduction. This report addresses concerns about safety and the use of dog sledding in our Alaskan expeditions. It highlights measures ensuring tourist safety and comfort, showcases key features of the experience, and explains the significance of dog sledding. Safety and comfort. During a recent evening expedition, the lead sled dog briefly veered off course after becoming distracted by a scent. However, Lynn Marshall had been thoroughly trained to handle unexpected situations, which helped maintain control. She was equipped with insulated clothing, ensuring comfort throughout the ride. The sled team eventually became exhausted and returned to a familiar checkpoint. Each expedition is equipped with trackers, so Mrs. Marshall was swiftly located. Additionally, we carry ample supplies, including extra clothing and materials to make a fire, prepared for any eventuality. Highlights of the expedition. Our Alaskan expeditions offer an extraordinary blend of adventure, natural beauty, and cultural immersion. Tourists are captivated by vast wilderness landscapes, spruce forests, and serene lakes. The charming town of Eagle adds historical allure to the journey. Activities like downhill sledding provide unparalleled thrills, while the rare sight of the aurora borealis beneath Alaska's expansive night sky is described as transformative. Beyond adventure, the expeditions promote eco-friendly practices, teaching participants the value of sustainable living and reducing their carbon footprints. Reassurance about dog sledding. Dog sledding is an integral part of Alaska's heritage and remains vital for traversing its rugged terrain. This traditional mode of transportation is sustainable and has minimal environmental impact compared to motorized alternatives. Our sled dogs are well cared for, receiving excellent nutrition and regular rest. Their enthusiasm and pride in their work are evident, and their welfare is prioritized above all. By preserving this age-old tradition, we offer tourists an authentic and immersive experience, allowing them to appreciate Alaska's natural beauty and cultural heritage in an eco-friendly manner. Conclusion. Our Alaskan expeditions seamlessly combine safety, adventure, and sustainability, offering tourists an unforgettable and responsible travel experience. The Ultimate Experience Travel Company can confidently promote these expeditions, assured of their exceptional quality and safety.
So let me break things down for you. We have title here. This is optional. If you want to make it look more professional or formal, you can include this. Subheadings are important, so I have introduction and conclusion. And for the body paragraphs, I will use words that are from the bullet points. Make sure that your writing is factual and there are no contractions. So use formal vocabulary like those in orange and no phrasal verbs. Also use formal linking words like those in blue. In green, you can see that I have used passive voice whenever possible. So this is the format of a formal report. Finally, you should check your work. And in fact, you should check your work after every paragraph, not just at the end of your writing. I hope that you have found this very useful. If so, please remember to like, share, and subscribe. If you have watched my other videos on directed writing, you will be aware that I have a specific way of planning, which is using a table. However, we don't have time to do that on exam day. So nearer the exam, you should be starting to do this way instead. These are the steps I usually take for doing the paper 1 directed writing question, which is step 1 is to read the blurb of the text. Step 2 is to read the question and underline the keywords in the question. Step 3 is to read the text and then underline 4 to 5 points for each section. And step 4 is to fill in the table, which has a column for development. This is the step that we're going to skip in this video. After that, we will write the directed piece of writing, whether it is letter, magazine article, journal, interview, newspaper report, or formal letter. And then you should check your work. Welcome to English Step by Step. I am Miss Wee. I make free videos for IGCSE English First and Second Language. Today we're going to be doing the May-June 2022 Paper 1-1, and this is the text. So as usual, we will read the blurb of the text first. And here we are, the title and the blurb, what it's like to be married to a future Ironman. In this blog post, the writer looks back on their husband's preparations to complete in an Ironman event. So we know that this is written from a wife's point of view. Next, we're going to read the question and underline the keywords in the question. So here we are with the question. You are Sam. If you remember, the text was written from the wife's point of view. Now you are writing from the husband's point of view, the person who joined Ironman. After completing the race, you are interviewed for a podcast about your experience and the advice you would offer to anyone thinking of entering an Ironman. The interviewer asks you 3 questions only. How exactly do you need to prepare for a challenge like Ironman, and why is each aspect of that preparation important? How do you think preparing for Ironman affected other areas of your life, and what advice would you offer anyone considering entering an Ironman for the first time? What were the rewards of completing an Ironman for you and your family? Write the words of the interview. So base your interview on what you have read in text C. So question 3 is always based on text C. Be careful to use your own words. Address each of the 3 bullet points. Begin your interview with the first question and write about 250 to 350 words. You can write a little bit more than this, that's fine. And you have 15 marks for content and 10 for quality of writing. Here I have highlighted for you the important parts. You are Sam, and you are to talk about your experience and give advice. And you have to write an interview. As usual, I've highlighted the 3 parts in 3 different colors so that when you are looking for the points in the text, you can highlight them in the same corresponding color. I understand that in some countries or some exam centers, you're not allowed to use highlighters. So you can use your pen and draw different types of lines. You can draw a straight one. You can draw a squiggly one. You can use brackets. You can circle. Be creative with the ways that you can use to distinguish the points for the 3 parts. The next thing I want to point out is the word and. Usually you can use the second part after the word and as development. Not always, but you often can. Next, we're going to read the text and underline 4 to 5 points for each section. So I have highlighted them in the corresponding colors. Pink is for the first bullet point, which was about the preparations and why they were important. So training in advance, getting a coach, having a plan, swimming and riding a bike, eating healthily, and getting some equipment. So for the second part, it was about how it impacted other areas of his life. So this is a negative impact on his wife, who had extra responsibilities. It also affected his kids. They couldn't go camping or hiking. It also affected friendships because he could not socialize. There was also a financial burden and impact on his work. So in your development, you will give advice on what to do in these cases. I will show you that later. The last part is about the rewards. So here the company benefited from the publicity. His family was very proud of him. There was great excitement at the finishing line. He was an inspiration, and there was a great sense of achievement for all of them. The next step usually is to fill in the tables. If you haven't watched the other videos on directed writing, I'm going to put a link up here for you to access all the videos on the different types of directed writing, such as letter, article writing, journal, interview, newspaper report, speech, and formal report. We're going to skip filling in the tables, but I'll show you what the tables look like. So in my other videos, you will see this. I will have points in one column and development in another column. Now, obviously, during the exam, you will not have time to make tables like this. So we're going to write directly on the insert itself. And here I have done the first part for you. So I have developed the points in pink. So for training, started training in January. I have to change to my own words first, start training months in advance. And my development is that you need time to get strong. Got himself an expert coach. So I say here to get a good coach, and that will save you a lot of time. That's my development. Monthly training plan. So set a target and adjust accordingly. That's my development. Bike ride and pool ride. Swam and rode my bike a couple of hours every weekend. Must be consistent. That's my development. Extra food, I've changed to eat healthily, and development is to consume enough protein. Now I'm going to develop the blue points for the second bullet point. I've removed the others so it's not too crowded. So for all about childcare, too much burden on wife, So my advice is to make sure that you get help. So that's my development. And it also fulfills the second part of the bullet point, which requires you to give advice for those who are thinking about participating in the Ironman. I have neglected friends, so let them know that it's only a temporary situation. That's my advice. I spent a lot of money on equipment and food, so be sure to have a budget. Notice that I've started using I because I want to get into character. I want to remind myself that I am Sam. Here we have problem with business partner. So do discuss the benefits with your co-workers, with your boss, with your business partner if you have one. I also mentioned that I, or Sam, neglected children. So you must make sure that you strike a balance and don't neglect them. The next part is for the rewards in green. Again, I have deleted all the others to make space. But for this one, the reward was that my company became well known and there was increased business revenue. Here, my wife was very proud of me and she wants to sign up for Ironman next year. For the next one, I've got boost self-esteem and increase confidence. We've got two separate points here. For the kids, I was a role model for my kids and showed them that anything is possible. And the sense of elation here and unparalleled joy, that was the reward. So here is to write the directed piece of writing. Make sure you use the right format. And here we have the interview.
How exactly do you need to prepare for a challenge like Ironman, and why is each aspect of that preparation important?
The most important thing is to give yourself enough time. Ideally, you should start training at least 6 months in advance because your body needs time to build strength and endurance. Consistency is key. Commit to running, swimming, and cycling for a few hours each week. Another crucial step is hiring a coach. Many people hesitate because of the cost, but in reality, skipping a coach often leads to wasted time and inefficient training. You should also set a goal and adjust it as you progress. Treat it as a moving target, pushing yourself further as you get stronger. And of course, nutrition plays a vital role. Eat a balanced diet with plenty of protein to fuel your training and aid recovery.
How do you think preparing for Ironman affected other areas of your life, and what advice would you offer to anyone considering it for the first time?
It definitely impacted my personal life. My wife took on a lot of extra responsibilities, which was tough on her, so if you're thinking about entering Ironman, make sure to communicate with your partner and get some support. It also affected my relationship with my kids. I felt guilty about missing out on activities like camping and hiking. It's important to find a balance so that training doesn't come at the cost of family time. My friends weren't thrilled either since I had to turn down a lot of social invitations, so I'd advise letting them know in advance that your schedule will be tight but temporary. The biggest challenge for me was my business partner. If you have one, try to show them the potential benefits of your Ironman journey. It might surprise them. Finally, there's the financial aspect. Extra food, equipment, and race fees add up. So plan a budget and stick to it.
What were the rewards of completing an Ironman for you and your family?
Sam. The rewards were incredible. The sheer elation at the finish line is indescribable. Pure joy. My self-esteem has skyrocketed and people have noticed my increased confidence. My wife was so inspired that she signed up for Ironman next year. I also hope I've set a good example for my kids by showing them that with dedication, anything is possible. Even my business partner is thrilled. Our company has gained unexpected publicity, and business is thriving. So, while the journey was challenging, the rewards made every sacrifice worthwhile.
If you have found this lesson useful, do remember to like, share, and subscribe. Do hit the notification bell so that you don't miss any future lessons. Thank you, and I will see you real soon in my next video. Welcome to English Step by Step. This is Miss Wee, and today I want to teach you how to identify the points quickly for question 3, which is the extended response question in paper 1. And this is the Cambridge English First Language 0500 paper. So the steps that we will be taking today is number 1, we will read the blurb. If you don't know what it is, I will be showing you soon. And then read and highlight the keywords in the question. And then try to predict what the core points might be. I will show you how to do this by just looking at the blurb and the question. So your predictions may or may not be accurate, but it will prepare your brain to know what to be looking for. Number 4, read the text and underline any points that loosely fit into your prediction. And then also underline those when you are reading, you will find those that don't fit your prediction, but still answer that part of the question. So feel free to underline them too. Now, the point of making a prediction before you look for the points is that you will have a better idea of what to look for and will therefore be faster in doing so. So we want to cut down the time that you are spending on looking for points so that you can finish the question on time. So here I have part of a text and I have highlighted the blurb. So the blurb is usually the first paragraph and is in italics. So here we have the Clement Street Soup and Sourdough restaurant. Louise has moved away from the place where she grew up to work for a company called General Dexterity, GD, founded by a young businessman called Andre. The company designs industry-leading robot arms for factories and needs talented computer programmers to find ways to improve what your robots can do. Now, in the question, imagine you are Andre. You have noticed the changes in Louise, which have made you reconsider how your business operates and decide to make some improvements. So this shows that there were some problems that need to be fixed. A few weeks later, you gave a speech to other business owners. In your speech, you should explain the nature of your business. We already know that the company designs industry-leading robot arms. So we know that it's very high tech. Okay, so the prediction would be anything that has to do with being high tech. You would underline anything about technology, but also be flexible because there will be other aspects of the business that has nothing to do with technology. Okay, second one is the concerns you have had about your staff. Now, looking back at the question, your staff are mainly computer programmers. So you can imagine computer programmers sitting in front of the computer for long hours every day and getting tired and things like that. So that would be my prediction for this. Okay, so things like overworking, not eating well, things like that. And then the third part, the improvements you have made at GD as a result of speaking to Louise. So the improvements would be based on your concerns. So if you think they're overworking, you might want to reduce their working hours, for example. So this is how you predict. Your predictions may or may not be accurate, but it will help you narrow down your search. This is another one. Into the Delta, the narrator, Susan, recalls first arriving from the town of Seronga with a large group of tourists for a 2-day safari along a river delta with the Okavango Polars Trust. Susan went on to work with the OPT, staying in the area for over 9 years. This one is a little bit more tricky. I don't think many of you know what polars are. For now, just know that it has something to do with the river. And you will probably find out what polars are when you read the passage, which we are not going to do now. Okay, so the question is, you are Baruti. Weeks after Susan's arrival, you are giving a speech to a group of local business people to persuade them to support the work of the OPT. So explain exactly what OPT is. So anything regarding OPT, you would underline and its achievements. Describe what tourists particularly enjoy about trips with the OPT. We know that it has something to do with the river, so we can easily predict that it has probably to do with the scenery, anything to do with the water, probably something to do with the animals and or nature-wise. Now, the third one suggests how the support of local business people might help the OPT and benefit local people, animals, and the wider region. Okay, so the business people, so I'm guessing they could provide some sort of funding that might help with facilities. They might also help with publicity or education. So that's my prediction. All right, we're going to move on to a more challenging one. I've got the whole text here. The blurb is just the yellow part. So the passage is called Thirst. A blockade stopping ships from entering the port has caused shortages of supplies on an island. Water rationing is in place. Taps have been turned off, and islanders have to make do with just 1 liter of drinking water a day for the months until the autumn rain. So I'm just going to read the blurb for now and then go straight to the question. The question is, you are a journalist writing for the local weekly newspaper, reporting on recent events and reactions to them. 2 days after the incident at Al Jafar's property, it is announced that the blockade has been lifted and water rationing is no longer required. Meanwhile, Al Jafar and his wife have complained to the authorities. Okay, so in your newspaper report, you should describe conditions during the blockade. Now, we know that there was water rationing and people had to make do with just 1 liter of drinking water a day. So we can easily predict that the conditions are quite horrible. People are thirsty, they can't use water for washing, things like that. Okay, now the next one, I outline how the incident at Al Jafar's came about. Now, I don't know what the incident is without reading the text, but I'm going to guess that it has something to do with the water rationing. Okay, and because there is not enough water, I'm guessing that the incident has something to do with maybe fighting over water or stealing of water or unfair water rationing for some reason. So I will only know when I read the passage, but at least I know what to look for. Explain the nature of Al Jafar's complaints. Okay, so if there was some sort of water fighting or stealing, then he would be complaining about those things. So now let's go back to the passage. Okay, so the first bullet point was about the conditions of the blockade. That is actually quite straightforward. So there are not enough supplies. There is water rationing. The visitors, as in the holiday makers, the tourists have left. So there's hardly any business for the locals. Washing and bathing would have to be done with salt water, sea water. So I've already got 4 points here, which is enough. But if you want more, and if you continue reading, you will find some more here. The city was quieter. So there was very little activity and people seemed to be crumbling. So it was affecting their health. Okay, I'm not going to spend too much time on the first part because that's the easy part. Now, the second part is the incident that I don't know about. So I need to look for an incident. So I'm going to read and look for an incident. So I'm going to start reading. We lived by the sea, above abandoned huts we had repaired and rented out to holiday makers. I'd gone down there as soon as my neighbor, Marshan, told me about the rationing to collect the pitchers of fresh water I'd left by the rough-hewn plank beds. The visitors had left. I checked the toilet cisterns. The rust-colored water there would soon come in handy, I decided, and siphoned it out into another jug. Washing and bathing would have to be done with salt water. So I haven't come across Al Jafar yet. Now, the second part outlined how the incident at Al Jafar's came about. So I'm going to have to look for this incident that I don't know about. So I'm going to scan for Al Jafar. There's no Al Jafar here, so I'm going to skip that. And this is the first time his name appears. So I'm going to start reading from here. Don Al Jafar had the largest house. There's no incident yet, so I'm going to continue reading. Perched high on a steep hill, a vast stone mansion shaded by trees. I was joined by Marshan and we climbed the hill. There is no incident yet, so I'm going to continue reading. At the top, having wound up Al Jafar's considerable driveway and past his parked cars, we bellied up to the gate and were astounded to see Al Jafar afloat in his pool. This is when the incident starts. Everybody is thirsty and he's swimming in his pool. So definitely there's going to be an incident. So that's why I highlighted this. A pair of goggles affixed to his face as he did a lazy, dignified backstroke. So that's just details. I don't need that. We stood mesmerized watching this spectacle, unsure whether to disturb him. Finally, Marshan shouted hello. So there's no addition to the incident yet, so I'm going to leave it. Al Jafar stopped swimming. Treading water, he looked around until he saw us. Yes, Your pool's fresh water, correct? I said. So no addition to the incident yet. Al Jafar shrugged. What's it to you? Fresh water is rationed. So I could underline this, highlight this, but I have continued. Al Jafar nodded. So you should conserve this water. We're all in this together, Marshall tried to reason. So they confronted him. So I can either highlight this or this. It's the same thing. So this is escalation of the incident. Al Jafar ignored us. Okay, so that's another escalation. And started swimming again. His wife emerged from the patio. This is our water, she snapped. So I could also have highlighted this instead of this. It's the same. You could use this as development for this later. We retreated and stood in the driveway conferring. There is no escalation. In fact, the incident is retreating. We retreated and stood on the driveway conferring until finally we went back down the hill. So the incident is receding, abating. So I'm not going to take any of these. At that moment, we weren't thirsty enough to proceed further. Days later, Martian and I decided that we should pool our reserve petrol and take my motorbike inland to the city. So this has nothing to do with Al Jafar anymore. So I'm going to skip this paragraph. And then I'm going to continue here. On the road back at the top of the hill by Al Jafar's, you can see his name here again, we stopped and gazed thirstily up the driveway, which now had a chain strung across it and a sign warning to keep out. We have to seize Al Jafar's water, Marchand declared, for the good of the people. A group of us met after dark. Marchand began to lead us up the hill. Okay, so this is when the incident continued from here. So I've highlighted this. The rest of the men wavered until I shrugged and followed. The gate was closed but swung open easily. First, we had told ourselves we would lie down on the dead grass and push our lips against the cool water, drinking till we burst. This is just their imagination, so it's not really part of the incident. Then we would find Al Jafar and explain to him that the water must be divided equally among all the families of the urbanization. But the water was gone. Okay, so this is going to upset them. So I'm going to use this as part of the incident. Okay, so I will stop here because the next section will be more relevant for the third bullet point. So let's have a look at the third bullet point. Now, the third bullet point is usually the most challenging. Explain the nature of Al Jafar's complaints. So obviously he's going to complain because somebody came into his property and took his water. So let's go back to the passage. I'm going to continue here. They siphoned it, Marchand said, put it in casks. We needed to drink water. These are not things that Al Jafar will complain about. Here, we were surprised to find the house unlocked. Inside was silent, so they went in. So they were trespassing. So that might be one of Al Jafar's complaints. The tile and marble kitchen was dry, every vessel empty. The cellar, someone suggested. We found the door bolted and banged on it, calling Al Jafar's name. So this is also trespassing. Leave us alone, Al Jafar called back. We want the water, I shouted. So I've highlighted this because I think that Al Jafar might complain that they demanded for something that isn't even theirs. We don't have it. Liar, Marchand pronounced, to murmurs of agreement all around. We'll break this down, I told Al Jafar. We'll smash it up. So they were threatening. I think that Al Jafar might complain about this. The others gathered up whatever items looked like they might make a dent. Heavy candelabras, an old olive press. Each of them did little against the heavy door. So they were being violent. So that might be connected to this one here. Then Marchand appeared with a rusting axe head he had found in the workshop. Several blows later, the door began to split. Okay, so definitely Al Jafar will be complaining about them damaging his property, or their property, he and his wife's property. Stop, Al Jafar shouted. I will let you in. We heard him fumbling theatrically with his catch and prized open the door, shoving Al Jafar aside. The cavernous cellar was stocked ceiling high with precious casks of water. Marchand took the axe head to one cask, releasing a translucent torrent of crystal clear water that we attached ourselves to lips first, so they drank the water. like ticks to a sheep. So they're very thirsty, so they drank a lot of it. Al Jafar had enough water to keep us for weeks, and here he was hoarding. Okay, so I've got the 5 points: trespassing, demanded for something that's not theirs, threatening, damaging their property, stealing their water. So let's look at the question again. So I want to show you the mark scheme, and I will tell you why I want to show you that. Now, this is the answers for the third bullet point, and this is from the mark scheme. You will see that I have this point, stealing the water. I don't have this one. Mine was demanded for something that isn't theirs. Invasion of privacy, I don't have this. Trespassing, yes, I do. Threatening, yes. Damage of property, yes. Blockade has ended, no. Now, the reason why I'm showing you these and telling you that it doesn't match mine completely, it's because of my message here, which is don't get too hung up on finding the right points or finding the exact points that are in the mark scheme or finding 5 points. You can stop at 4. Now, as long as your points make sense, that is, they answer the question and you can make them work. So for this particular one, it's a newspaper report. You think that you can fit them in nicely, go for it. The point here is not to waste too much time looking for points. You have to spend your time on writing. And the reason is, if you look at the top of the mark scheme, they will say this: responses might use the following ideas. So these are suggested ideas, which means that you can also use your own ideas. Okay, so let me know if this method of prediction helps you with the looking for points, and let me know also whether this helps you to be a little less stressed and a little less overwhelmed.